Hello, and welcome to Life Stories with me, Angela Dixon-Watson. Our guest today is my friend Marva McIntosh. She's an educator who is the founder of a captivating listening ministry, which is celebrated worldwide on May 16 of each year. Her copyrighted poem titled Today I Will Listen is now in 8 languages. Marva, please tell us a little about yourself and what prompted you to give birth to this magnetic listening ministry.
Thank you, Angela, and thank you for your listening audience and for everyone there who is listening to this recording. It's really a pleasure to share my ministry with you. So about 20 years ago, I was working as a speech language pathology manager, and I was at a professional crossroads because I was successfully employed, but something wasn't sitting well with me. I knew there was more, and I started looking out and wondering, what is my purpose? And I prayed. I'm a woman of faith, and I started to pray. And God led me to the concept of listening. Initially, I was a little set back because I didn't know anyone who was doing listening. And I said, God, there's no money because I have no friends doing listening, and there's no money in it. That's why my friends are not doing it. But then I had to remember that I had prayed and asked God to show me what He wanted me to do. And then I settled down and I said, okay, Lord, I surrender. Open the doors that need to be open and close the ones that need to be closed. And so I Love to Listen Day started. I met this guy who had a day called I Love to Write. He was a writer, and he had I Love to Write Day. And I said, John, you inspire me to do I Love to Listen Day. And he said, wow, I wish I had thought about that. So almost 20 years, this is our 19th year of celebrating I Love to Listen Day. And my life has changed in a way that is just remarkable. God has opened doors, and now I know what my purpose is. And going forward to the end, I will be sharing listening to anyone and everyone who will listen. So I Love to Listen Day. We're getting ready to celebrate our 19th year. As a speech language pathologist, I was able to work with people who had difficulty being understood and difficulty understanding. And working with them taught me, it opened the door, it taught me how important it is to listen. I saw how their eyes, even if they weren't able to speak, their eyes would light up when they think that I understood what they had to say. And the ones who were able to speak, the same thing would happen. It would be just a change when they felt understood. So from then on, I have every day read or written something about listening. And I have learned so much that listening is not just what it is on the face, it's a lot more. And one of the things that I say about I Love to Listen Day is I love to listen because it gives others a voice. When we listen to others, that's what we do. We give others a voice for them to share what is happening in their life. So, so that's the purpose of I Love to Listen Day, May the 16th. You're wondering, what can I do on May the 16th? There's lots of stuff you could do on May the 16th. You could go on my website, ilovetolisten.com, and there's tons and tons of information sitting there just waiting for you to check out. What you could start a family legacy. You could start a family activity where you sit and just listen to others at the dining table or in the living room, or however your family gather, and just plain and simple listen. So I have been having fun and challenges in this listening journey that I'm on. And the stories, the heartwarming stories that I hear from people keep me encouraged. I know this young lady, she's a physician assistant and she's raising two teenage girls. And she came to me and she said, you know, if I am the only one who was blessed by your ministry, it was worth it, because I approach my daughters so differently now that I'm aware of being of the whole concept of listening. She said, thank you. So I receive thank you messages all the time from people who are saying, now I understand the importance of listening and the importance of the importance of being intentional about listening, because we listen every day. We listen every day, but just to be more intentional about giving this gift. Listening is a gift that we give to each other. So, you know, being on this journey, I've met students, I've met leaders, and last year, what gift I received last year when we had I Love to Listen Day last year, we had notable high figures in the community who signed a proclamation saying May 16th is I Love to Listen Day. So, for example, we had the Governor General of Jamaica who signed a proclamation for the country saying May 16th is I Love to Listen Day. We have the Governor of Maryland, Westmore. He too signed a proclamation saying May 16th is I Love to Listen Day. And to top it off, for me, because I worked in Washington, D.C. for over 32 years, and when I had the mayor of Washington, D.C. signing a proclamation saying May the 16th is I Love to Listen Day, and there's several mayors. So I would like to invite everyone who is listening to go to my website, ilovetolisten.com, and look at the proclamation and sign a proclamation for yourself and send it back to us so we can post it. You will see some other proclamations there on the website. And from families, you can do a proclamation for your family. You can do a proclamation for your individual listening health. You could do a proclamation for your city. I've done one for my city, and there are several other cities that have done a proclamation. You can do it for your country. You can do it for whatever the municipality that you have an influence. You could do that to say May the 16th is I Love to Listen Day. But let's just talk about listening. In the big scope of listening, we listen to ourselves, we listen to others, we listen to nature, and we listen to God. Now, in listening to ourselves, this friend, I did a presentation on listening to ourselves, and this lady came up to me and she said, I get it now. If I have to listen to everything I say, I will be so much more careful in what I say, because it's like a boomerang, she said. It's coming right back at me. And I said, yes. What that means is that you stay in a mode of positivity and encouraging yourself. So whatever the words that can come out of your mouth, it has to be words of blessing, because if you choose to curse someone else, you yourself is hearing that curse and you are cursing yourself as well. So that is how important it is to listen to ourselves. It means that we will always pour out blessing, because when we bless others, we hear it and we in turn are blessed. And I think that is the most fascinating thing about how we were made, to listen and we hear ourselves. So how careful we have to be in what we talk about and what we say, because the boomerang comes around and we hear it. The other part about listening is listening to others. So we talk about listening to ourselves and listening to others. We have people in our home. We have people at our workplace. We have people who we meet on the street, in the marketplace. And those are the people who need listening from us. And we have to be so, so careful how we listen, because the people in our home, sometimes we take them for granted because we know what they typically say and we're bored with it and we tune them out. But this is a real battleground for listening. It is hard. It is hard. This gentleman came up and she said, he said, Marva, I listened to your presentation on listening and it's not easy. I tried it a couple times. It's not easy. And I had to say, I just want to encourage you because this is a journey and there is no perfect listener. We all are stumbling. And I told him that I've been on this road for 20 years and I still make listening mistake. I have to say, affirm myself every morning and to say, today is the day I will listen. So we listen to ourselves, we listen to others, and we listen in nature. And the part that I'm going to focus on is how much nature contributes to our well-being. And recently, I read an article where the researchers said that we are living in the noisiest time in Earth's history. They said the siren on the emergency vehicles are louder than they have ever been. We have all kinds of electronic gizmo, everything ticking here. Finding quietness is a challenge because there's always a TV going, something, a recording, a YouTube, this. We are living in a very noisy time. And it says that the noise affects us, especially when we are not able to control the level of noise in our environment. It affects us, and the research said it affects us, the stress level, and you know what that means when your body is under stress. So let's find some quiet time. And it's interesting that the Bible's mention, be still, and know that I am God. So just make some quiet time for your own reflection, your own meditation time. And that is one of your wellness or your self-care, is just to find a quiet spot every day where you can go and just exhale, meditate, and even pray or whatever you choose to do. But in nature, many of us may live close to a park or close to a place where you could go out and listen to nature. And you always wonder, why is it that I feel so refreshed and so uplifted when I go out to the park and we go for a walk and we go out, and it was, really a wonderful experience in nature. That is something that we need to pay more attention to and take advantage of it, because it does well for our soul. It does well for our listening journey. There are people who I know, myself included, who take a prayer walk. So while we're walking and it's out there in nature, we take a time to pray. So there's so many things that we can do while we're listening out there to the birds. They said no matter how rough the day was, the bird always wake up with a song the next morning. So they may have had a rough night or a rough day before, but the next morning they wake up with a song. And just listening to the birds and so forth is so encouraging and so uplifting to our spirit. So let's try to go back to nature and create some stillness in our lives. So we talked about listening to ourselves, listening to others, and listening to nature. And the other one is listening to God. Listening to God. You know, I posted a statement on my website the other day that said, don't let those who stop listening to God influence you to stop listening to God.
Mm.
There are some people who have stopped listening to God and they brag about it and they talk about it, but don't let them influence you. You do what you know because you've always listened to God and He has always been there. And the beautiful thing about listening to God is that you never have to you never have to shout. You never have to do anything extraordinary to get his attention because for some reason it just seemed like he's just always there waiting. It said, God is the best listener. You don't need to shout or cry out loud because he hears even the very silent prayer of a sincere heart. So, what a blessing. We have a God who listens. We have a God who listens. So, for those of you who want to go out and change the world, I always say, if you want to change the world, go home and listen. That's the first thing to do. If you have plans to change the world, go home and listen. So, you know, I just thank the Lord for this journey that He has given me. I have been able to speak in churches, in schools, in workshops in several different countries. And last week, I went to a school, an elementary school, and read to 3 classrooms. And I read a listening book. The title of the listening book is The Rabbit Listened. And the kids, they were so just elementary school, they were just beautiful and they listened. And at the end, one of the little boy raised his hand and he said, so good things happen when we listen. I said, wow, wow. So even a child understands how important it is and the benefits of listening is just measurable in your relationships. It draw you closer to each other. So many times I would tell couples when I do the couples presentation, I would say when it comes to buying gifts, you just have to listen to the person because so many times you buy expensive gifts and the person don't show the gratitude that you were expecting, but it may have been something much simpler that they wanted as a gift, but you weren't listening. You weren't listening. So
Wow.
use that note section in your phone to listen. And when when your partner or your family member says something, write it down. So come giving time, you will be able to surprise them with a desire of their heart, something that they really wanted. And you know, but that's just one thing. There's listening on the workplace, and that's a whole conversation in
All
it's
together.
yes,
Wow.
yes, that is a whole conversation. The whole concept of listening in the workplace. And Harvard Business Review has been putting out some article, you know, those are prestigious well-respected journal. They now have been putting out several articles on listening in the workplace and how important this is. So,
Marva, I have a question for you.
yes,
What I'd like to do, I'd like to revisit the title of your poem. Today I will listen.
yes.
Can you do us the honor by reading your internationally known poem, Today I Will Listen?
My pleasure. Thank you for asking. I wrote this poem to really promote I Love to Listen Day. And thank you, Angie, for asking me to share that. Today I will listen. Today I will listen without interrupting, without prejudging, without second guessing, without gazing, without rehearsing, without discounting, without filtering, without correcting, without contradicting. Today, I will just listen. Today, I will listen with attention, with humility, with respect, with patience, with understanding, with awe, with gladness, with warmth, with gratitude, with reverence. Today, I will just listen.
Once again, Marva, many thanks for being our guest, and moving forward, we will accept the challenge to be intentional by incorporating listening in our daily lives.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And for more information, go to ilovetolisten.com. Thank you. Thank you so much, Angie. This was a pleasure.